So what we're doing today is we did introductions. We have a little bit of information about where to get information webinars, common challenges and solutions, links to information, but we want to spend the bulk of our time down here on the fourth bullet, which is why I'm going to move fairly quickly here today. So we did introductions. Please put any questions you want answered in chat. Heidi and Mega will be monitoring that while I do some presenting here. And the Grant Relief Basics it's a project, it's a state legislated program, and it's run by a company called Lendistry, and the main website is right here. And we've also shared these PowerPoint slides if that would help you, and I'm sure Meg or Heidi can put that link in the chat room. So that's the main site where your clients will be applying, the careliefgrant.com. So how you find there's two ways to find a partner, because what's happening is businesses apply by choosing one of about 36 partners. So this down here, there isn't really one application site for the small businesses. They go through this partner process and they can find a partner by language or by county. And as soon as you go to that CaliforniaReliefGrant.com, it says right up there, find a partner, and it gives you these two choices. And the main thing, if you're helping small businesses, and you'll see this several times on our slide, the main thing that would really help your businesses, among other things, is helping your clients remember which partner they have applied through. The small business world out there has no idea what an SBDC is, or WBC, or CDFI, or any of these organizations. And I'm sure it all looks all the same to them. So helping them take screenshots, pictures, email something to themselves, text themselves, whatever it takes to help them remember exactly which organization they used would be really helpful.
Yeah, and for those of you who are Cameo partners, it will be a Cameo link, and I'll just make sure that you all get that by next week.
Okay. So as I said, the application is at this main careliefgrant.com website, and that's where you can find the applications and find partners, and also find links. It's not only links to the partners application, but also links to the partners websites, so you can learn more about the partners and help your organizations pick the right ones, because there are a lot of partners to choose from for most counties. There is an application guide right there. If you go to the home page again at that same website, there's if you keep scrolling down, you'll see application guides. They're meaty documents, I'll say. They're fairly long, but there's really good information. So if you're guiding somebody through the application process, I would just go ahead and take the time, set aside an hour in your schedule to read through the application guide, because it's got everything in there, and you just kind of have to have the patience to read it all. So our main application tips is, again, find the best partner for your client, either by location or language. Help your client save that partner's application website address and organization name someplace. And I would not count on their memory, because a lot of these organizations have very similar names, a blah, 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 Economic Development Corporation or whatever. So pictures, screenshots, texts to yourself, whatever the best method is to help people grab that name is super important. Try to help people apply once. One thing that's happening is sometimes people are starting a second application, often because they can't remember where they applied to. So if there's any way you could help avoid that, that would be super helpful. And again, I would take screenshots of every step. I'm going to go through the application today, and depending on time, I might not do this, or I might do it a couple of times. If I were to do this, I would, as I go through the application, I would take a screenshot probably of every page, because once you submit your application, it doesn't have you review your answers. So if people can't remember what they answered to any particular questions, and there's enough questions where I think that's an issue, I would coach people on how to take screenshots at every screenful of the application, and then save it someplace on their computer or phone. Again, common challenges: clients not remembering which partner they use, so they can't update or complete their applications. Lendistry does send you notifications once you submit an application, and sometimes people aren't looking for them. Lendistry is sending out calls, texts, and emails, and some of it's going to spam, so you have to coach your clients on how to look for Lendistry communication. Clients definitely need help scanning and uploading documents. That's one of the biggest challenges because of, most of our small business owners probably don't have scanners and might just be using mobile phones as their main way to do documents or it's their main basically computer device or is a phone. And you can do it on a phone. And if you go to the application guide, there's a page on how to make PDFs, not pictures, not photos, but PDFs using your phone. We're going to talk about this, but not prepping the documents ahead of time. The first step is really to get your documents organized before you go anywhere near that Apply Now button. And then also completing the application certification can be hard for those without printer scanners or Adobe skills. So we'll talk about that a little later too. So if somebody does apply and then their application is blocked or they're having a hard time doing an application, here's some tips is to use Chrome. I will be using Chrome today as my browser. There's this thing, I think did we train people on how to do that on last week's call? I can go over that today. Sometimes there's stuff in somebody's browser history that makes it hard for them to get back to an application or to refresh a page. So I can show you how to use incognito mode. It's just one way of getting to a website without getting tripped up by your search history, your browser history. Some applicants are using pop-up and ad blockers and can't quite get to where they need to go. So knowing how to turn off or allow, to turn off pop-up any blockers that come up is helpful. So these are kind of tech skills. And if a client starts an application but can't log in, they can reset their password here by going to the partner through which they applied and selecting forgot password, and the password will be sent to them. I think somebody should.
Please enter or say your 5-digit zip code. 94558.
Let's see, who should I mute? Did everybody mute?
I muted.
Let's keep going here. So Cameo has a super detailed FAQ that Mega, bless her, has been updating. I just checked it today. It was updated just a few days ago. Probably Heidi or Mega can put that link in the chat room. In addition to the application guide, which has tons of information, we have created our own sort of detailed FAQ. If that's a useful guide for you, please grab that link out of the chat room and click on it and say, bookmark it or something. If you have additional questions, it's another way to get your questions answered. And then I think Heidi can also put some recorded webinar links in the chat for you as well. So this is my favorite page in the application guide. Copied and pasted right here into the slide. And it's what to do before applying. And as you can see, the fourth step is find a partner and apply. So there's really 3 steps first, which is 1, review the program and application guide. So again, I know it's a bit tedious. One thing, please tell your business owners, it is not first come, first serve. There's no need to rush to the application, taking a few days or whatever it takes to get organized, get informed, get prepared, find your partner, grab screenshots of your partner's website. All these kinds of things will really help you have a successful application. There's also videos right on the website to help with the application process. So there's on-demand videos right there on the website, which can be very helpful, and we'll be doing that with you today. And then this third step is prepare your documents. So preparing the documents ahead of time before you go anywhere near that Apply Now button, I think is really critical. And then the final step is to find the right partner, and then you'll be ready perhaps to hit the Apply Now button. So the documents, so here's the 4 documents. This is step number 3 from the last slide, is there's a certification form, which needs to be initialed and signed, and I believe dated. I didn't write that on there, but it does. Oh, look I have a mistake here. Wish I could delete this, sorry. You have to use your 2019 tax return. I'm very sorry, I have an error here.
We'll correct that before we send out.
Yes, we'll correct it. So please take note, not the 2018, but 2019 most tax it's not the most recent tax return, it's the 2019 tax return. And it needs to be all pages, and not your state, but your federal tax return. So that's the key, is help your clients, if they haven't filed their 2019 tax return and would like to apply for this, help them file their 2019 tax return, and then scan it, and then that will be the document you upload. Then you need a government issued photo ID, which means a passport or driver's license, I think would be the most common government issued photo IDs available. Again, we need a scanned version of that. And then finally, something that says you're in business. It could be your articles of corporation, a fictitious name of registration, or a government issued business license. And again, this is an interesting thing down here, that it really needs to be a PDF, not photos. And then there is a few pages in that application guideline that helps you, that guides you through various phone apps you can download that make PDFs and not photos. And so if you're working with clients that are sort of mobile device only type clients, they don't have computers at home, they don't have scanners, it would be great to look at that page in the application guide and sort of practice with those apps that make PDFs, and kind of get good at how to coach somebody through the scanning process with a phone.
And you guys might be good and kind of adept at doing this, but we found that, you might have business owners who just have no technology skills whatsoever and are just befuddled by some of this. So I know this may seem super basic, but this is what these are the challenges that we found that in the rounds 1 or 2. Can we just do it for them? If that is within your capability, yes.
A situation where people, if they emailed you documents, they're already in digital form. But if you're able to mask up and COVIDly safe scan documents for people, or you've got a way of doing that, please. It's probably the biggest favor you can do the folks you want to help, is to scan their documents and get them in that PDF form.
Because after that, it's not that hard.
And that certification is maybe also like help them initial it all, sign it, scan it, get it up there, and we'll go over that today.
Yeah. Kelly had a question. Is foreign passport acceptable? And Tina, I'm going to boot that one to you. So I'm really glad you're on the call. I can't remember.
Foreign passport, that one we would have to do as a one-off. We have accepted them, but it just depends. So that one, you can bump it up to me when we get to that point, but it just depends. Normally a regular passport, I just happen to have mine. You guys know with the regular passport.
You mean a US passport?
This one, I don't know why I have this right here. Look at that, perfect timing, right? It would be,
where's my
it would be that one for the US passport. But I'll check into that. We have accepted it. Just got to figure out which country is it coming from.
Yeah, and again, this may take more time than we have. I mean, Heidi, I didn't put the round dates. When does round 5 open?
It opens next Thursday.
Yes.
Okay, Thursday. So, and it's
25th.
How long?
For the 31st.
Okay. I mean, and just so you know, even if for some reason your clients don't want to get a California driver's license, you can get a California ID. When my kids were little, I got them California IDs just in case something happened to them. We had an official document with their pictures. So that is possible. I don't know what the turnaround time is for that at the California state level, but hopefully a passport or a California, I guess it doesn't have to be a California driver's license. It just says a government issued ID, photo ID. Okay, any other questions about scanning? I will say that my favorite scanning story is that the Fresno Area Hispanic Foundation got people lined up in the parking lot every other, keep everyone COVIDly, socially distanced, and they had people in every other slot, and somehow they had a remote scanner and were out in a parking lot scanning. So whatever you feel like you can do to help with that part would be super helpful. Great. Anything else on scanning or? Okay.
I'll throw in, Susan, that one thing about my favorite thing, the iPhone scanning. If you guys want to try it on the Notes app on the iPhone, it has the option to scan. So some
That's
people
right.
know, but some people don't. It's a really, really easy, quick tool that people already have, and they don't have to download an additional app. Just make sure they select the scan option, not the photo. And also make sure that they get all of the documents in that file. So if it's a tax return, 1 to 8 or 39 pages, that they scan them all and then push save. Don't push save per page. That's where the hiccup kind of comes in, because it'll save it as one PDF.
Oh, I see. So if you scan each page and then hit save, it'll save it as one document.
Exactly.
Bingo. So this is something you may want to practice with, so you're able to help others do it right. Yeah.
But it works good, especially if you can only work with them over the phone. If
Yeah.
you come to a surprise and, hey, I have an iPhone. Okay, because sometimes it's more difficult getting them to download one of the apps that we have in the guidelines than to just use that.
Right. The other thing you can do is if they do scan if you're coaching them over the phone and they scan everything, have them send you their document scans and just look them over and say, did this work? Are they legible? How did it go? And maybe you could help just review their documents, make sure they got it all done. All righty, so let's keep going. So if you do your documents first and then applications second. So this, I just grabbed a little section of the, so I don't mean to do that, off the website, the main website. And as you can see, here's just a sample of two organizations that I believe I clicked on, Contra Costa County or something like that. And the first two that came up, they're in alphabetical order, is the American Indian Chamber of Commerce and Asian Inc. And you can see, you can either click learn more about this partner if you're trying to find the best connection for your partner, for your client, or you can click the apply now button. So that's what it looks like. All right, so how about if we actually give this a shot? So let me share my screen again and go to Chrome. Hold on, let me get on the right page on Chrome. Let me make sure. I never quite know exactly how Zoom is going to let me do or not do things. Okay, here we go. So this is what it looks like, but I will say, if you can see up here on the, I'm on a test site, right? I hope I'm on the right page. So this, did it switch pages, Heidi? Did I switch? Does it say, can you see this California Relief Grant?
Yes, we can see that.
Great. So this is the bona fide site right now, and it's not open yet for round 5. So but I just wanted to let you know this is what it looks like. Find a partner by county or language is right up here. There is a special tab for the arts and cultural applications. Here's some on-demand webinars are right here, frequently asked questions, information for applicants, tips and videos. And if you scroll down here, there's a lot of information. It's a jam-packed. Here's information about the funding rounds. So the next one for your small businesses is right here in round 5, which Heidi had it right, March 25th through March 31st. And then there will be a round 6 announced at some point when they're ready. If you can find your partners at this in this section, and then here's the application guides. And like I said, there are fairly meaty, but I would definitely recommend, clicking on it and go ahead and just read it. Just read it through. It's a good use of your time. So anyways, let me go back to our demonstration site. So this isn't the real site. It's a practice site, but it's very similar, as you can see. And once you click through, and let's say I clicked through and found my partner, and I can click here to apply. So that's what I want to do, is click here to apply.
Did I miss the download the certification?
Oh, shoot, you're right. So sorry. Yes, let's download the certification. So let's see. I downloaded the certification ahead of time, but I know it's on here. Can Tina or Heidi?
Right there. It's right there. You just passed it. Right there. Go up like one little. There you go.
Oh, there we go. Thank you.
It's right there.
Thank you. So this is a certification. If you're a nonprofit organization, you'd grab this one. If you're a for-profit, you'd grab this one. go ahead and give a click, and then it'll show up and you can, now did it switch screens? What can you guys see?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay. So what I would do is I download it right here so that it's actually in Adobe or something like that. Oh, it's going to make me save it. I don't want to do that because I already have it open. But if you download it to Adobe and then you can start, I'll take you there right now and initial it. Okay. So let me go there first, because you're right, Heidi. Before we apply, we want to do our documents. So thank you. Now, if I switch to Adobe, let me know if I have to stop sharing.
You need to stop sharing.
Okay. This is one thing I wish Zoom was a little different about. So here's the already downloaded certification. So basically, this is just a way of saying I pledge, I vow, I promise that everything I put in the application is true. So that's really what this is all about. And there are, I think, 13 sections, if I'm not mistaken. And as you can see, they each need to be initialed. There's a little space right here to initial it. So if I were doing this, I could put my initial in there. You can also print this out and do it all by hand. So whatever, this is where you also have to get good at coaching people through the process. Like, how should I just have them printed out? Should I print out a bunch of these at my office and just have people come by and initial and sign them and then scan it and email it back to them? I mean, every client is probably going to have different capacities on filling this out. And, you know, one thing I think we all know is that there is a digital divide, as they say, and we want to support our business owners, especially our disadvantaged community business owners, to get through this process as easily as possible. But I think it's good to read all of these. Some of them are a little bit legalese for my taste. I have a hard time understanding them. But the truth is, everybody has to initial all of these and certify it. Each one of these is a certification, and I'm not going to read it to you. It's a certification that something on the application is true and accurate, is basically what this is all about. And then you get down to the bottom and sign it. And I don't know if it's going to let me sign it, frankly. Often, I've done this a few times, and often it allows me to sign, and often it doesn't allow me to sign. Let's see. It's not allowing me to sign. But if I were trying to do this and I was struggling to do it within Adobe, I would print it out, sign it, and scan it and save it.
Tina, can you DocuSign this? No.
So you can type this particular form, you can type in your signature. You don't have to actually sign it. So this one here, now when it gets to the closing documents, they'll come in a DocuSign, but this, you can type it in, they'll accept it like that.
Okay.
Because it's a little difficult trying to get it printed and signed and all that stuff. You're good.
Oh, so I could just do this, Tina, what I'm doing right now?
Yep, you can do exactly that and then send it in.
Got it. Oh, that's good. So there we go. So I didn't know that. So you always learn something new.
Yep, because it's really hard to have people to download this. Now, when it comes to if they get approved and awarded, when they have to sign closing documents, that comes in a DocuSign and they can sign it. But this one is just a PDF filler. So we accept it with the typed information.
Yeah, so there we go. I filled it out, you save it, and then upload it. Or if you have to do the printout method, just make sure that all these there's 13 sections, right? Just double check that every single one of these guys gets initialed. And don't
make sure.
Yeah.
And I know you said this, Susan, but the most important thing about this is we get a lot of them back that are empty. And what happens is, because it's not downloaded and saved, they have to download it and save it, or else, because it'll let you fill it out if you just bring it up from the website. You can start putting things in there and you'll think that you've saved it. If you didn't download and save, it will come back blank. So it's very important to download and save, and then tell them to name it.
So Susan, if you open that document, I bet it's blank. That you just saved. No, but you didn't download it first. You just saved it.
No,
she did. She downloaded it when you weren't on, Heidi. She downloaded.
Oh, okay.
I pre-downloaded it.
Okay.
Good one though, Heidi. Good one.
So
Yep.
here's the steps. They have to open the certification. They have to download it. They have to fill it all out. They have to save it with a new name, but it maybe says filled out, right? And then they need, so that's, or they download it, print it, fill it all out, scan it, save it. There's a fair amount of steps here. Does that make sense? Is there any-
So Kelly's asking a question. If a nonprofit applies in round 5, which certification do they use? There was a button for a business certification and a button for a nonprofit. So they would use the nonprofit, and then they would go in. There is a separate nonprofit application that Susan's going to apply now. And so she'll.
Yes, so why don't we apply now? So I've got my certification. And just so you know, I already have my other documents. I created, photo ID document, tax return, and business license documents. So I've got my 4 documents ready to go now. So now we're going to go to Chrome and actually apply. So let's see. Okay. Can you guys see I'm on the test site? Does it show?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So I'm going to click here to apply. And we are going to apply for grant program for profit. So here's the business side. Here's the nonprofit side over here. And this is the for-profit side over here. So that's another kind of tricky thing, is really help people be in the right column. And click apply now. There we go. So here we'll just get started. So I know it's a little faint, but hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing. First name, last name.
We can see.
Email address is, I have a test email. Oh, and I can't type so good. So Susan 006 at yopmail.com.
You should have made it 007 if you were going.
I did, but guess what? It was taken. It was taken.
Da-da-da-da.
So someone else was as clever as us, Heidi.
Darn.
So I know this is a little boring, but I just want to go ahead and do every single field. So I'm calling it Susan's test, just making up a zip code. And right here, if you think your clients, I would have most of your clients click this, because then they'll get text messages. Okay. So that's kind of your text message, like you'll get emails. So if they click that, Tina, will they get emails and texts? I think they will. Anyways, I'm going to continue here. Tina, can you answer that?
Say that again, Susan.
If you accept this SMS text policy, does that mean you'll get both email notifications and text notifications?
Yes. If you don't accept it, you'll still get email or phone, but if you accept it, you'll get all 3.
Great. So now it's auto-filled my name, my email address, the owner address. So let's keep going. Address 2, I don't have it.
Ooh, Kelly asked a good question. Do you need to be 18 to apply? I don't think that's come up. I think if they have a valid business, Tina, what do you think? If they file their own tax return, right?
Yeah.
It's a good question. I would say, but that's what I would think, right? If they file their own tax return and the DOB didn't accept less. Oh, that's interesting. We'll have to get back to you on that, Kelly, huh?
Yeah, I'm gonna look at that. So the DOB didn't accept less. Tell me what you mean for the date of birth. It wouldn't let it go back.
Wouldn't let it be less than 18.
Yeah, you can select anything you want for the date of birth, but then it'll give you an error and say you have to be at least 18.
I think it has to do with being able to sign contracts, you guys.
Yeah, it will give you that error because you do need to be 18. You shouldn't go back past any date. Like the person doing it would need to be 18 or older. Is that what I'm?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's the 17-year-old's business, but mom fills out the form.
Exactly, because it all goes back to the tax records. If the 17-year-old has a business, is mom still claiming the 17-year-old, or is the 17-year-old actually claiming themselves? So yeah, it would.
Yeah,
need
they're
to be-
dependent. Yeah, that would be. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but that can be a case by case because there are some 17-year-olds that do have their own business. And it just depends on how they file their taxes. So I wouldn't say no. We could definitely move that up if that's the case and see how we can work that out.
Great, thank you, Tina.
Mhm.
So here, it's very hard to see, but this says percent of ownership, and I'm putting 100 in there, but if it was multiple partners, you may, and the person applying isn't 100% owner, then they would put whatever percent of the business they owned in right there. So then we say, I didn't read the terms and conditions, but you can certainly click on that and see the terms and conditions. So we've completed. So if I were doing this, I didn't do it in the last screen, but like if I were filling this out, I have this way of like, I am taking a screenshot of this, you know, saving it, because I just think it's really helpful to just, you don't get a chance once you submit this thing to go back and see what you've done. So, you know, I've learned this trick on a PC of how to take these screenshots. There's a lot of ways to do it, but I would definitely take a screenshot of each screen. You really know what you've turned in. So now we're in the third section. Okay, Susan's test, doing business as. If you have a DBA, you put it in here. If you don't, a DBA is a doing business as. If you have, at least in the state of California, if you use your own name as part of the business, you don't need a fictitious business name. But if you have, if I'm Susan Brown doing business as, you know, Pretty Trees or whatever, I'd have to go and file a fictitious business name. So I'll say in this case, they don't have one. My business EIN would be like your social, or if you have an actual EIN, you would put that there. Business phone. Business type, okay, drop down list. So this is the legal, this means like, what kind of legal structure is it? So I'll just say I'm an LLC. State of incorporation. In many cases.
Susan can right here. So this part right here, and we've been finding it a lot. You see where it says the business type? A lot of businesses they call themselves LLC, or they'll say, I am a limited liability company. What happens here, they need to determine if they are a sole proprietor or if they are actually a corporation. And they'll tell from the way they file their taxes. Because what happens is when they put in limited liability, the way the responses will come back over from our team to say, if you're missing a tax form or if you're missing something, it's going to go under what a limited liability company would be at 1120. But if they're in fact a sole proprietor that files a 1040, but they call themselves an LLC, then it can prolong the process because hitting this tab right here indicates that they file an 1120 versus if they hit sole proprietor with employees, sole proprietor without employees. They really need to be specific on that. And the mix up really comes in with the LLC. So I just wanted to make sure we were notifying everybody on that because we found it to be a really big hiccup on the document side.
Yeah, and one way you can tell is by looking at their tax returns. If there's a Schedule C there, they're a sole proprietor. If there's a, what is it, the 1120?
Yes.
Then they might be a corporation of some
Yeah, and it's very important. And if you want to get ahead of it, you can just ask them, how do you file your taxes? And that'll, help to answer that question.
And if they don't know, then just say, hey, can I look at them? Can we look at those together? I'm just making up stuff here that might not actually be reality. So date business established. What is that? What's the minimum date? Heidi or Tina or Mega? It had to be ongoing, what, June 2019?
June, yeah,
Say that
June,
again.
June, as of June 2019.
June 2019 for the business date. Yeah, they have to be in business by then.
Right. And then they can put their business website here, and if not, they really need to write none.com there. Again, I would take a screenshot if I were really doing this for real before I go on to the next. So purpose of grant, and here's your choices: payroll, rent, mortgage interest, utilities, group healthcare, or other. I'm going to go ahead and click other. And then it asks you to describe it. So I might just say like overhead expense. And amount requested. Now there is a page in the application that tells you how much each business is eligible for. I think it's up to $100,000 of revenue, is it, that you can have up to $5,000? Is that right?
For the amount requested,
Yep.
you can put up to, it's 5,000, 15, or 25.
Right.
And it should show up on the side. If you scroll over a little bit, you see where the little chart is. It should come up on the side. That'll help them to select it.
Well, I've got all this stuff.
Yeah, I can see the edge of it a little bit right there. There we go.
Oh, there we go. There we go. So there we go. It gives you a little pop-up window. It's based on revenue size, right? So from 1,000 to 100,000 is you can the maximum amount is 5,000. From 100,000 to $1 million, the maximum is 15,000, and from $1 million to 2.5 million is 25,000. So those are the maximum. Those are the maximum amounts. So I'm going to say, is this going to create new jobs? I'm going to say no. This says annual revenue for 2019, and I'll just put in 50,000. Full-time employees, why don't I just say in 2020, I'll say 2. Part-time employees in 2020, I'll say 0. Number of jobs created in 2020, well, we've been in COVID, so I'm going to say 0. Number of jobs retained in 2020, I'll say hanging in there. My 2 employees going. Then business demographics. So you get different answers here. So business to business means I'm a business that sells to other businesses. In fact, that's kind of what Cameo is. We're a business and our customers are other businesses, other nonprofits. Or you could have a business that sells products to retailers, and the retailers in turn sell them to customers. So that would be a B2B. Or let's say you're a business and you're doing a service like bookkeeping and your main customers are other businesses. That's B2B. B2C means business to customer, where you're selling directly to the user or both. So let's go ahead and say business to customer. And then you come over here, what does your business do? And you've got some drop down lists here. So I'm going to say I'm a service business of some kind. What type of business is it? Now you get different lists here. So if I have a service business, these are my choices: entertainment, insurance, hotels, personal services, business service, auto repair, amusement, health, and professional. If I were to check over here, because it sells product, I get a different drop-down list over here. Am I doing wholesale, durable, wholesale, non-durable, or retail? So you get different drop-down lists depending, but I'm going to stick with service just because I understand service better. And let's just say I do business services. And then it says, tell us more. What kind of business services? Reporting agencies, services to dwelling and other, equipment rental, personal supply, and computer related. I will say I find this list a little confusing. And I would just say pick one that seems, somewhere in the ballpark. So I think I personally.
Yeah, I don't think that this is just more for information purposes, right, Tina? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, this is for internal information. And you'll notice, depending on what you select on the left for the business services, it'll change over on the right. So if you select hotels and lodging, and when you select hotels and lodging, when you go over to the right, scroll up, Susan, and
Hotels and lodging. Okay.
And now go over to what does your business, see how it changes?
Yep.
So it depends on the category. So it'll change if they need to know that. But this is really for internal data purposes. This does not affect the application.
Okay. So personal services, and I'm going to pick shoe repair because that's kind of fun. And then the next thing is we have to pick an industry code, and most people, of course, have no idea what their industry code is here. So you can click here and it'll take you to the industry code. Find your, right up here in the upper right-hand corner, find your NACE, I don't even know how you say that, NACE code. And then I can say shoe repair. And right here, footwear and leather goods repair. Click on that and it'll give me this NACE code right here. So I like to just copy and paste so that I don't make a typo. And stick it in here. So we did that. And then this is like some of what the certifications are. So our women-owned business, it has to be 51% women-owned, right? Am I right about that? If you say you're a veteran-owned business, it has to be 51% veteran-owned. Disabled, I think all of these things, the question is about, the threshold is 51%. Sorry, I've got screen problems with all these Zoom things. I know there's some people, Latinos, Latinas that aren't thrilled about some of these race and ethnicity issues, but it's based on how the census is structured. Is it a franchise? Yes or no? And are you rural? Yes or no? I actually happen to live in a rural area, so I'll click yes. So please let Heidi know if you have any questions. So here's a disclosure section. Is your business 51% minority or veteran owned? Yes or no? I'm going to say no. What was the gross revenue for your business from April? Now this is tough. You got to help your customers figure this out. What was the gross revenues for a 6-month period in 2019? Depending on how they keep their books, this could be a piece of cake if they've got some good QuickBooks. If they just have annual figures, you may have to estimate. Did you have some guidance on this, Tina?
The most important thing, which many of the businesses, especially the smaller they get, they won't have a QuickBooks. The most important thing, if they have their taxes, just take it by the quarter. And depending on, let's say, for example, the gross for total income for quarter 2 and 3, April to September, that's 6 months, you would just divide the taxes in half. So if they made $30,000, you would just put an estimate of $15,000 there. That's the easier way because they're trying to look at the loss, right? So if you in 2019 had 15,000, but in 2020 you had 3,000, right? Because of the loss, that's what they're looking at. And the easier way to estimate it is just go by the taxes divided by 2 or 4, depending on the question.
Right. So, and here's the thing, you want to, the way you qualify for this grant is that you're earned less in 2020 than you did in 2019. That is the way the program is designed to indicate whether you've been negatively impacted by COVID. Is your business currently in need of business advising or technical assistance services? Is your business currently in need of a business loan? Yes or no? And then this last one, in 20 or 21, has your business received COVID-related funding? And if you write yes, you'll get some additional choices down here. If yes, what was the name of the program for which you received funding? Hopefully they'll be able to remember which one of these they got. And if yes, what was the amount? We could put a number. Then we're ready to submit. So any questions on that page before I move on?
Yeah, Susan, Kelly has a couple of questions that I think are worth answering, and kind of goes to this. What about there's been a lot of local and city grants that have been promoted. She had a question about our loans and grants and loans. Are they revenue? And the loans one was easy. That's not revenue, right? That's you have to pay that back.
Loans aren't revenue.
But is a grant maybe like that that you got from one of these local programs? Are those considered revenue? Should we count that as revenue?
I think they probably are counted as revenue. I mean,
do you know the answer to that? And
so that's still it's been going back and forth. They technically would not be, because it kind of is the same as, like, it's not a loan, but it is money that came by way of a grant. So it technically shouldn't be, but there has been some back and forth with legislation with that. Someone asked that question again today and we're waiting to hear back. So as soon as I know, I'll let you know, Heidi, and Susan. But that is a big question for grants and PPPs now, especially because the laws are changing.
Yeah.
And
So,
just, it's a common bookkeeping error just because people, bookkeeping rules, people don't know them, but loans are not revenue.
Right. The grant
That
is
one-
where we're having some tricky.
Yeah, that one I knew, but the grant was the
Okay.
tricky one. So, and then is 2020 figure is an estimate, and I would say yes if they haven't filed their taxes, so they can estimate that. And is it worth applying if you're only 5% down in revenue? I would say yes. So you don't know what the algorithm is and there's a lot of money to be given away, and maybe the last person is the one, if they down 10, 20, 30%, maybe the last person is 5%. So, if they're going to have to weigh that, if 5% is, if 5% is 100,000 and they're going to get,
Right. We're kind of running out of time, so I think I'm going to keep going here if that's okay. It always takes longer than I think. So there really is this important, so I just hit submit because I finished the application. So yippee, we're all done. And it just says here, it's confirming you are submitting an application as a for-profit business. So make sure they see that. If this is incorrect, please exit. Leave and start over, basically, is what they want you to do. And if you are a for-profit and the application is correct, please continue with the following. And they need you to type yes right here. So you can't really continue unless you type yes there. But again, as you notice, it doesn't take you back to review your answers. So hopefully you've taken screenshots along the way.
that yes is really important, right? Because that's
Yeah.
what saves it. And that means
Yeah.
once you get this confirmation message, you are being considered for a grant.
You're in the system. You're in the system. So then what happens next is you have to go check your email. So that's the next thing. So let me go check my email. My YOP email. Check for new emails here. And bingo, look, I got an email from the California Relief Grant. And clicking the button will activate your account. Now, what you see at the bottom of this is that they have my email here, susan006@yotmail.com, but they also give you this like complicated password. So the first time you sign in, you've got to grab that password. Okay, so grab the password. I just copied and saved, and I'm going to click here to log in. And here's where I can log in right here. So my email again is susan006@yopmail.com. And then I'm going to paste that funny password in there right there and sign in. And then the first thing it allows me to do is change my password. So let's do that. Oopsie, I think I made a typo. Oh, I'm having butterfingers. Sorry. Let me, M-I-Z-R-O. I think I got it right that time. Submit. Okay, password has been changed successfully. So now I'm on to the second phase, which is uploading those documents. So I click here and I upload my document. I'm ready to start uploading my documents. Okay, great. So it's giving me a little bit of confirmation information here that I applied as a sole proprietor without employees, and I can change my type of business, but hopefully I did it right. And then here's the section where you upload your documents. So let's click on the first one. We want to get that certification that I completed done. And so I'm going to browse because I saved it on my hard drive, right? So I'm going to browse. I'm not in the right place at all. So even though I didn't change the name, which is what Tina suggested, but I did actually see 235 today. That is my completed certification. So I browse it, then it gives you the second button you have to click down here of uploading the document. So I get this little green button and says I'm completed. So I have that certification done. And I go to the next one and go to my government issued ID and I browse for it. And that's right here. I've scanned my, driver's license or whatever. And I upload the document. Completed. Great. Then I'm on my most recent tax return, or my 2019 tax return. It looks like that's our only choice, is the 2019 tax return. And then finally, my government issued, in my case, was a business license or whatever the acceptable documents. So the acceptable documents for this one are all in that application guide. So I've done it. You see, I've got my 4 documents uploaded. I'm good to go. And the last thing I need to do is my bank info, which technically it says here, banking information only needs to be provided by applicants who are approved for a grant or applicants who want to show all status items as complete. So they don't have to do their bank info right now. But I will say on this test site, Heidi and I were testing this today. If I hit click save and close, which technically I should, it gives me an error message. But I think the real site won't give you that error message because you don't have to have your client do the banking information at this point. However, it would save them some difficulty if they went ahead and did it. And the one thing I will say is I know a fair amount about the third-party integration they're using, which is this company called Plaid. It's very secure. It's as secure as the banks use. And so if they can go ahead and select their bank and put their banking information here, which is their routing number and account number, and their bank name and all that, it would save them a step. But I'm not going to do that today. And I think last time I did this, Heidi, when I tried to go back, it popped me out. So I'm not sure if I actually, let me see what happens if I click on this. Yeah, so I've completed them all. It just, in the test site, it doesn't allow me to save and close, but normally you'd be able to save and close at this point.
Can I touch on the banking info, Susan?
Sure.
Can you,
You want me to go back there?
Can you go back? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This one is another part. Although it's not needed right away, it's one of the most complicated portions. So you see step 1, where it goes to link the bank account. This right here, it's actually going to open a portal and the applicant is going to have to put in their username and their password for their actual bank account. And what has been happening is a lot of people are uncomfortable with that, number 1. And then number 2, some people don't do online banking. So they'll ask, do I have to? One of the biggest things, we really want to encourage them to do the online banking, but there is, if they are selected, so that I'm very clear, if they're selected, when they get to that part, there are other options that they will give them. But it's best to ask them, go ahead and log into your bank account or set it up. This system is really secure. It looks at fraud and it looks at things to make sure people are not on a no-fly list. We're not looking at the bank account. There are a couple of banks that have hiccups with this. PNC is one of them because PNC sometimes will block the verification. And we have lately seen a lot with Bank of America, where they would get an indication from Bank of America saying, hey, we allowed Lendistry to come in, but in fact, it's not coming in on our end. So we're still checking into that. But I wanted to make everybody aware because we've been hitting this hiccup when it comes to time for the last step of approval. And people are afraid, but it's a normal thing to be afraid because who wants to put their username and their password, in a system that they're unsure of. But we want to encourage them to try to do so and to let them know that it is secure. The other thing is if they have a blocker, so like a credit block or something, you know how some people, I've done it before where I can put the block on my credit so that nobody can check it or look at it and things like that. The way this system works, we're not checking credit. Credit is not a factor, but because it's a security thing, it will run through a credit system that if there's a blocker on it, you might get a notification that says, hey, unblock your credit. It doesn't determine your grant. It's just all for security and verification. And then the other part is step 2, like Susan was saying, is very, very important. What they would think is, I've done step 1, it links to your bank account, and they're like, I'm good, I'm all set. Or they'll think, I can't do step 2 because I didn't do step 1. They can very well do step 2, even if they don't go through the Plaid link. So encourage them to make sure they always do step 2, because it's just inputting information. The part about step 2, oh, see here. Yep, so you select your bank. And if they can't find it, they can type it in. Most of them will be in there. Once they select the bank, they'll have to log in username and password. You'll see the little colors start changing and going up. It'll say successful. And so when you get to the next screen, that button's going to turn green. And they'll
Robinhood. I've never heard of a bank called Robinhood. That sounds pretty good. And this is your username and password.
Mm-hmm. And so the most important things about this is that people are afraid. So encourage them, it's secure. And the other thing is they can very well do step 2, even if they're uncomfortable with doing step 1. At minimum, do the step 2. I hope that was helpful.
Yeah. And I know it's probably hard to just take someone's word for it, but Plaid is an extraordinarily reliable interface. It truly is. You could go research it. It's one of the best out there, and it's used all over the place. So, but it is hard to give away your username and password to your bank account. But it will make it easier because they would be able to get a direct deposit if they are awarded the grant. So how was that? We went over a little bit, but do you feel like you could get through it now? Are there any of the questions? It's not easy. I've been through it a few times now, and I still kind of like forget the different things. So,
Virginia, I think you have your hand raised. We can only see your top part.
We can see your eyes. You're like this. And you're on mute. Maybe I can unmute you.
No, you can only ask her to unmute.
Can you know how to unmute yourself, Virginia?
Yeah, here I am. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Well, Brandy asked the same question as I. When you go in and ask, did you get any government loans? Can you do PPP and the EIDL together, or do you pick one?
Oh, I didn't.
You can do both, and it should be an option in there that allows for, I think it says multiple. I forget the actual number, but there is a button that says multiple.
Okay, thank you. I missed that. Anything else? Gals, we're all gals here today. All right. Well, we hope this was helpful. We're happy to support you, to support your clients. It's very important for us that people who maybe have disadvantages and have digital issues have access and support to this program. So we want to support you in any way we can. So if there's, yes, go ahead, Virginia. If there's future questions, don't hesitate to ask. Go ahead, Virginia.
You might have answered this question already. Is it okay for someone who's going to go for the March 25th grant to go in and look and also review the application, or the application does not? I know you can't print, you cannot infill it, but can you look at it ahead of time?
It only gets you to the first screen unless you fill it in.
Yeah, there's an application in the application guide, so they can, the whole application is in the guide.
You can review it ahead of time. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yes,
Okay.
please. She should, they definitely should download their application, get all their documents ready.
Yep.
But please do not give out the test site. If you want the test site, because you want to practice, that's fine. And I think I have it.
Right. That would be terrible if someone thought they'd submitted an application and it was on the test site.
Yeah, this is for you. If like during your webinars, you're going to go over the test site, that's fine. But do not give that out to your clients. It will do no good. Yeah.
I have one more question I almost forgot to ask. I have a bunch of members who have applied in round one who have been kind of in that limbo for a long time. How are they being prioritized? And is there anything that we can do to like make sure that they filled out their application correctly? Because from what I'm seeing, we haven't been able to figure out like a rhyme or reason, given that they're all in Oakland. Some are POC owned businesses, some are in different zip codes. So just curious if that's like how that's being decided.
Did they get emails? They should be getting emails saying you've been waitlisted. Are they getting those emails?
Yeah.
Then they're in the pot. They're in the pot for selection. That's the good news.
Okay.
So I think Everett discussed it a little today. Are they in affected? Well, they're all in Oakland, so they're all in an affected COVID area. And then there's a whole bunch of other factors that go into the decision.
Algorithm.
The algorithm, and
It's probably a ton of factors that have these weights on them. And those weights change depending on COVID conditions and other things. So I think this idea of figuring out who's getting selected, like by thinking about it, I just don't think there's any there. You know what I mean?
So this one might be more specific, but we have some businesses who have multiple locations and, they run them as like separate LLCs, of course. If they've applied for both, is that something that will, sort of gum them up in the system because they've applied for both businesses as one home address? Could that be the difficulty?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That could very well be a difficulty because if it's under the same name, the way the system, it tracks everything, name, phone numbers, emails, everything. So technically one person should not apply for two businesses. One person should apply for their business. And if it tracks it, it could cause a duplicate. Uh-oh, did I lose you guys?
No, you're with us.
Did I freeze?
No.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
My
you froze a little
internet
bit.
is acting wonky.
They
A little
should
bit,
pick-
but yeah, so that could draw a flag.
So they
And
should.
they will be identified as a duplicate.
Yeah. So they should, in the future, for the other businesses, if they have other ones, they should pick the eligible small business with the highest revenue.
Mhm.
So if one place makes 90,000, the other makes
Grand.
130,000, then pick the 130,000.
Got it. And it doesn't matter which one has had more losses?
Not really. The honest answer to that is no, not really. They would have to decide because the determinant factors they're kind of broad. So it's not just weighed on the loss, right? There are a lot of things that play a part in it.
Okay. And if they have already put in two applications, is there a way to kind of flag it, fish it out? I don't know, fix it.
It is if you bump it up through to Heidi or one of the ladies at Cameo. Heidi and Mega are very good at getting those things over to me directly, especially something like that. And we can take a look at it and say, hey, this person has a duplicate. We would call them directly though, to make sure the proper one is the one they want to file, because that's the crux of it. We don't want to just delete one and they really wanted to go with the other. So you definitely can bump it up and then we can see how we can support them from there.
Email Mega. She just popped her email into chat, and with the DIR number, the email that they applied with, and their name. And we will try and help you out. All right, it's 3:15, everyone. Is there any more burning questions? Susan said she's sorry she got bumped out of the meeting. So she just, I'm not sure what happened there. She does live in a rural area, so maybe something funny happened.
Kelly.
And Kelly has one question.
This just seems easier to verbally ask. It's similar to what Ari was asking. One of our applicants just seems like such a perfect, like a clear, if you're going to accept anybody, you'd accept this person, yet she's still waitlisted. is there, I was just imagining, is there something like you guys accepted and selected the most obvious ones, and then as we get to the end of round 6, you'll get to the gray ones? Or I don't know.
So that's a really tricky question, only because the algorithm does it. There's not a person that's actually doing it. And here's the biggest catch to that is that, remember when it first opened up, we only had a certain amount of funding, right? And so it really was more applicants than it was money. Now that we have additional funds, and a big positive to the part of the process is that we put people on the wait list because we don't want to just count people out because something like what happened to get more funds is actually happening, right? So we're able to kind of move them up. It just depends on how they scored. And the scoring has all of those factors: demographics, how much they lost, woman owned, all of those things play a factor. And what's happening is when they get rolled over to round 5, which is where they're going now, we get to actually have a very unique process that says, hey, everybody that was in round 1, 2, and 3, we've reached out 5,000 times. We've tried to get in contact with them, because there are other things too where people fall out. So the wait list is designed to really, really help, rather than where a normal grant applications, and a lot of you guys might be used to dealing with grants and stuff, whereas if there's 1 or 2 things off, there's not a lot of wiggle room to fix it and or to come back. This is specifically designed so that if we don't ever get in contact with the person after 2 or 3 months of trying to get them and they've been approved, we can now move on and pull someone off of that wait list. But it'll go by the scoring. Whoever is at the top, according to the scoring deemed by the state, that's how they're pulled up. And it could be at the very end that those 5%ers we talked about earlier, they could be pulled off. So it's a kind of hurry up and wait thing, and a thing of, I just don't know. But it's kind of one of those things that's going to benefit them more in the long run than take away the opportunity. So I hope that helps. It's not an exact answer, but at least a little comfort in knowing they're in the pot.
Yeah. There's, there's definitely, don't forget this next round is $750 million. So that's as much as they've given away already. So, or maybe even more, I think. No, not quite as much as they gave away. They gave away almost $1 billion so far.
Mm-hmm.
So,
mm-hmm.
Yep. So, great. Well, it is Friday, y'all. If there's no more questions, thanks for hanging in there for so long.
Can I just ask one really quick?
Yes, of
Really
course.
quick. I just want to then confirm, based on what Tina just said, that the money really hasn't all been given out then from rounds 1, 2, and 3, based on what you said, because you may not have been able to connect with everybody that had been selected for the grants. Is that true?
That is for the most part true. Now there are, for rounds 1 and 2, not 3. 3 is into this pool, only for rounds 1 and 2. There may be a small window, but that is very minimal, because we've already started pulling those people from round 3 into that pool.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
It does make sense. I just know it didn't actually happen as quickly as what maybe you had hoped it would.
Yes.
Based on some
exactly.
contacts I had that were contacted way after the time that it was supposed to have happened, which I understand. It's not a criticism, it's a comment.
Yeah, that is no problem. You're absolutely correct though, Lori. The timing was thrown off, but for good reason.
Yes, understand. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any last minute questions? Going once, going twice. Awesome. Well, you guys have yourselves a wonderful weekend. Thanks for doing the work that you're doing to help the small businesses. We're all here and colleagues in crime here doing the best that we can. And we'll